2023 Hempstead Town Board meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Clayton.
I am here.
Councilman Green.
Here.
Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Here. Councilwoman Miller. Here. Councilman Muscarella.
Here.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Here.
Receiver of taxes Janine Driscoll.
Here.
Okay, I'm going to ask that Councilwoman Ryder lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, before we start the formal portion of the meeting, I would like the record to reflect that the tentative budget for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024 is being distributed to the supervisor and the town board members.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for taking that notice. Thanks. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And with that, Madam Clerk, please call the first public hearing.
We have a proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in North Valley Swimming.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this? All right, I do not have any slips on this. Does anybody in public want to be heard on item number 1 that did not sign in? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing closed and the board adopt the item.
I second that motion.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Creedy.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please go next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in North Merrick, Oceanside, and Woodmere.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard on this? All right, I do not have any slips. Anybody wish to be heard that did not sign in item number 2? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Creedy.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding arterial stops in North Woodmere.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard? I do not have any slips on item number 3. Anybody wish to be heard that did not sign in? Please have a motion.
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second. Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Creedy.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding U-turns prohibited in West Hempstead.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard? And if any slips on item number 4, anybody who's not signed in, wish to be heard on item number 4? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second motion.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Creedy.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding bus stops in East Meadow and Seaford.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard? All right, have any slips on this item? Anybody wish to be heard that did not sign in? Item number 5. If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Can I get a
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Creedy.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding fire zones in Levittown.
All right, any member of the board wish to be heard? How many slips? Anybody wish to be heard on item number 6 that did not sign in? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Creedy.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
All right, please, Madam Clerk, call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding school speed limits in West Hempstead.
All right, any member of the board wish to be heard? Anybody slips on item number 7? Anybody did not sign in who wishes to be heard on number 7? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed handicap parking on public streets in Baldwin, Elmont, Franklin Square, and Merritt.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard? Okay, anybody slips on item number 8? Anybody not signing in wishes to be heard on this item? If not, motion please.
I move that the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item. Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a motion to consider the application of Baldwin G2B development in the Baldwin mixed-use zoning overlay district of the building zone ordinance.
Counselor, if you identify yourself?
Yes, of course. Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, Deputy Supervisor Gooseby, council members. My name is Greg Alvarez from Amato Law Group, 666 Old Country Road, Garden City, New York, here on behalf of the applicant G2D Development. Thank you.
Please continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're here this morning to discuss a project of a mixed-use development at 2283 Grand Avenue in Baldwin. This property is a through lot, so it's located on both Granite Avenue and Harrison Avenue, south of Sunrise Highway. It's situated within the Baldwin Mixed-Use Zoning Overlay District, and more specifically, the Transit-Oriented Development Sub-District. Currently, the property is operated by the Cesare Family Funeral Home, which actually intends to relocate due to this development to a different location within the community to continue to operate. The basics of the development, it consists of 54 market rate rental units that will break down as 12 one-bedroom and 42 two-bedroom. Excuse me. Also, there will be a 2,344 square foot office on the ground floor. So, just by definition, the purpose of the overlay district will be met by this development, and that it's to create a walkable, compact, and transit-oriented downtown with a mixture of uses. So that's really the purpose of this development here. The relief that's requested as part of this development are threefold. First, we're asking for relief under the development bonus calculation within the building zone ordinance for the number of parking spaces. We will meet the number of parking spaces using this calculation, and so we'll be seeking it here. The second item is for maximum front yard setback, and that's for Harrison Avenue. And the reason for that is that we want to orient everything towards Grand Avenue, which is, again, the purpose of this overlay district. The third item we're asking for is minimum landscape buffer along the residential to the south. Notwithstanding this, we're proposing a robust 15-foot buffer along that area to certainly meet the spirit of the request that we're asking for. One other item that we do request as part of this, more of a housekeeping item, there is a 1953 declaration that's on the property. It was granted by this board then as part of the rezone of the portion of the property nearest Grand Avenue for business. This allowed for parking to be situated further beyond the business zone, and in light of the overlay district, we feel it has been mooted out, so we would ask the board to let that declaration at this time. I mentioned about the parking. So as part of the request for the development bonus calculation, the building zone ordinance asks that the applicant provide a community benefit in support of that request. And here, G2D is offering a $200,000 community benefit that would be used for purposes to be designated by the town for community improvements. This application has been reviewed extensively. In particular, it was reviewed by the Design Review Board, where we looked at various aspects of the application, resulting in their recommendation from July 21st. It's also been reviewed by the Nassau County Police Department, the Baldwin Fire Department, the Nassau County Fire Marshal, the Nassau County Department of Public Works, and the Baldwin Civic Association, all of which were favorable to this application. Finally, we asked for this board to issue a negative declaration under SECRA, and that is in connection with the review by BHB, the town's own consultants, who prepared a report and recommended that a negative declaration be issued. So at this time, I'd just like to bring up a few folks to talk very briefly about the application. First, I'd just like to introduce two folks from G2D Development. We have Greg DeRosa and Philip Foote, who would like to thank this board, the Design Review Board, the Building Department, everyone who has been taking part in this process to this point. We also have Wayne Novak here from JMB Design, who prepared the rendering, which is in front of me here, which I believe certainly speaks for itself in terms of the design. At this time, I would like to ask Zachary Chaplin from Stonefield Engineering to join us for a moment to talk a little bit about the site.
Thank you. Good morning. Just for the record, my name is Zachary Chaplin, last name C-H-A-P-L-I-N. I'm with Stonefield Engineering and Design, civil engineer for the project. I'll be brief. I think Mr. Alvarez did a nice job kind of summarizing the project. I think just looking at this from a site layout standpoint, we have a narrow lot. So I think it was a little bit challenging when we were looking at laying out this site, and of course meeting the intent of the overlay district. So our goal was to put the building as close to Grand Avenue as possible. We worked closely with Nassau County DPW on the access and the curb cut. That curb cut is right in, right out only on Grand Avenue, and then the access on Harrison is actually going to be gated off via breakaway gate only during emergencies for fire. The other part I want to talk about is, currently the site's a funeral home and there's a lot of parking in the back. We understand, we are abutting residential in that southeast corner, so we made it a point to add in that 15-foot buffer, which is actually an improvement compared to what's there today. Overall, the project's proposing over 180 evergreen trees, I believe 8 shade trees, so it's definitely going to be a nice aesthetic of increased landscaping on the site. I think by putting the building close to Grand Avenue, you create that streetscape, as you can kind of see from the rendering. And then, of course, the project's going to improve drainage, brand new LED lighting, and obviously utilities to support the project. So in summary, I think, just from a site layout standpoint, we are dealing with that narrow lot, but we did meet most, if not all, of the overlay district with that layout and design in place, working very closely with the numerous agencies that Mr. Alvarez mentioned.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd ask that Amanda LaRosa from Stonefield Engineering step forward to speak about her traffic analysis in relation to this development.
Good morning, Amanda LaRosa, also with Stonefield Engineering. I prepared the traffic and parking assessment that was submitted in connection with this application. The report findings indicate that the development is expected to generate relatively low traffic volumes. We're talking about approximately 26 total trips, that's entering and exiting during the heaviest travel peak hour. We also assessed the parking supply in connection with this application. We looked at parking demand rates published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which is an industry standard. And even without considering principles of shared parking, the findings do indicate that the parking supply is sufficient to meet the expected parking demand associated with both the residential and office components of the project.
Thank you. And finally, I just asked T.J. Ritchie from Stonefield Engineering, who's a professional planner, to talk a little bit about the overlay district and relief that we're asking for.
Hi, for the record, Thomas Ricci, RICCI, licensed professional planner, in the state of New Jersey, member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I was hired by the applicant as the planning consultant to analyze the project. So basically, this is a project that's in the Baldwin mixed-use overlay district, specifically the TOD district, which is a transit-oriented development district. Now, the goals of that district are to create development that's proximate to the train station, so it's accessible for commuters. We're about 0.2 miles away from the train station. So we as planners We shoot for that 0.25, that quarter mile, which is very accessible for someone to live nearby and actually utilize that station. Some more goals are to drive foot traffic through some growing retail uses in the area, meeting increasing demand for different housing types, like we have here, like apartment-style living, and really just to foster more of that downtown setting. So that's usually what you do with these types of developments in transit-oriented development districts. So I think that the project as a whole checks all of those boxes. We are seeking some relief that's really born out of the technicality of the site itself. We have this kind of narrow through lot, which is why we don't comply with the landscape buffer requirement. But I think that the ultimate goal of the project is to have as much building up along that frontage to kind of create that streetscape look. And then you obviously have to have those areas of the drive aisles to access the parking lot. So kind of working with the constraints of the lot. And that's the same reasoning for the rest of the relief too. The front setback is because we're trying to stay away from Harrison, which is to the rear, and put that building close to Baldwin Street front. And then as well as the parking, kind of working with the boundaries of the lot. So really, at my review as a certified planner and a professional planner, I don't think that the relief is substantial. Like I said, it's not something that's self-created, kind of working with the constraints of the lot. I think it checks all the boxes for for what the zone goals are for this area.
All right, at this time, that concludes our presentation. So if there are any questions, we welcome them from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez. I appreciate the presentation. We do have a number of residents that will want to be heard. We'll see if some questions come up, and at the end we'll give you an opportunity to come up and address some of them. So I'll start with Jeanette Green. Good morning. If you just give me your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Yes, well, I'm Jeanette Green. I'm a homeowner and a resident of Harrison Avenue in Baldwin. I have a professional healthcare practice in Baldwin. There's a lot of attempts being made to keep Baldwin a thriving suburban community, responsible community. I'm definitely opposed to this application. It doesn't seem like this is being responsible to the community right now. It seems like it's just adding to the congestion of our community of people that are renting or are not necessarily have a vested interest in the community, looking for a place to stay or to live or something that's close to the train station. I understand that, but I just appreciate the opportunity to be at this town meeting and see all the dignitaries here and the population here. It's the first time I've ever been to a town meeting, but I'm glad for the opportunity to get the information from the people that are trying to build and utilize this space. It would be nice if we kept it a suburban area rather than urban area. And we had people that are coming into the community that are going to be contributors. And that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you for taking time to come, Ms. Green. Next, Susan Appleman. You take it back? Okay. Rhonda Eisenberg?
Yes.
Hi, hey, go to the back. Thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning. Your name and address, thank you.
In March of this year, a number of you stood in front of the Port Washington train station to oppose the building of affordable housing units, saying that it destroyed the fabric of the suburbs. Why is it okay to build all these units in Baldwin, but not on the North Shore? That's one of my questions. Second, I read in a local newspaper that there's also going to be some units built on Merrick Road, west of Grand Avenue, where the old diner / auto parts place was. Is that true? Is that also going to be built? I don't know what, we already have affordable housing in Baldwin. We have a whole development on Grand Avenue. Yeah, I don't really understand what's happening here. Why is it okay for Baldwin? And I think there has to be affordable housing for people. What's wrong with the North Shore? Why is it only Baldwin? My last statement is, because I'm sure it's going to happen anyway, because you guys don't live in Baldwin, so it's going to be okay with you. But if this happens, I saw that in Oceanside, near South Nassau Dermatology, there were parking signs that said no parking from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. unless you have a permit. I think that those of us who live on Harrison and Bixby Drive would want those signs, because I don't care how many gates you put up, people are going to be parking all over the place. So, I don't know if you can do it for Baldwin. I mean, it's Baldwin, not Oceanside. Oh, and by the way, maybe you're going to build a unit where the old Friendlies was. Think about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Eisenberg. And in relation to the event that was happening up in Newport, Washington, that was because the governor was trying to subvert and take all the zoning away from all localities, that you would have had to have gone to Albany and testify, or Albany would be dictating down here. I think, Ms. Red, that's it. What we do down here is, and I mean this sincerely, we have hearings and we're very respectful of the residents, and we're very respectful of your comments and thoughts. And that was the purpose of that. I just want to let you know that. So I appreciate you coming in, and I appreciate you bringing attention to issues that affect you, because that's the importance of this. Next, Greg Alvarez, but I think you already went, Greg? Yep.
Yep.
All right. Amana La Rosa was, there was testimony. Zach Chaplin, your team, okay? Eric Alexander. Good morning, if you your name and address, thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Eric Alexander, address 24 Woodbine Avenue, North New York. I'm the director of Vision Long Island. We were part of 3 planning efforts in Baldwin. One out of the county tried to transfer into development. Another county resiliency plan that was also planning for revitalization corridor, and then another that helped create the mixed-use zoning district, the overlay of the town. So, want to be clear that the zoning that you guys did and this project have nothing to do with what strange, oppressive mandates at Albany. So that's number one. And I think everyone's united in opposition to, your leadership, supervisor, and board. So we're talking about planning locally. That's really the effort. We have done a preliminary review of this project just on our own. And this follows the vision that we heard at hundreds of people came out to multiple meetings for revitalization along Grand Avenue to have development in some areas, but not everywhere in town. And this, from a parking perspective, usually these projects park themselves. There are less cars that come out of the multifamily development. The design, I think it's coordination with the Civic Association and others to get the design to fit the character of the community. The density is relatively lower compared to other transit-oriented developments. The use, the location, were within the parameters of the mixed-use zoning overlay. And the residential market is strong, and the office component really allows young entrepreneurs to be part of the community. These work smart efforts that are part of multiple developments. There's in Hicksville and Riverhead, there at Huntington Station. They're well utilized, and folks aren't commuting as much into Manhattan, but they on the days they're not, it gives them an opportunity to be local and work locally. So there's a tremendous value in that. This developer has won multiple Smart Growth Awards for Hicksville and Riverhead, and we do know, we're happy to see that they're coordinating with the local community always see that with some developers, and this one is. So with that, I'll stop. It's most important you hear local community voices as opposed to our voice. I live local, so just wanted to just give some comments, just as a backdrop. So thank you, Supervisor, members of the town board.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next, I have Thomas Salvatore.
Good morning.
Good morning, your name and address, thank you.
Thomas Salvatore, 2307 Harrison Avenue, Baldwin, 1510. That address is critically important. The sign that I look at is right on my driveway. That's where you can start digging, right? Engineers. Okay. Right at the block, what the engineers described is a duplicate. Right down to the fence that's closed most of the time, but not just for emergencies. It's open a lot. It's open a lot when it's garbage. It's open a lot. We already have this. Not only is this address important, I'm a first generation German from town, 1966, born and bred in Bolton, Van Buren Street. Seen a lot of changes in Bolton. Racial wars while I'm in college at my old high school. I welcome diversity, but I also saw a card that was given me by the owner of that house, my landlord, a gentleman named Don Clayton, that doesn't want the migrant illegal housing coming out to Nassau County. There's the elephant in the room, right? Who's filling the 54 units? One of my questions now. The first precinct is on the corner of Merrick and Harrison. You should see the cops when they're doing their job, flying down that road, helping somebody in our community that needs the help. In the sign, you specifically say less than required parking. You specifically say less than required landscape buffer. The civil engineer told you that's a narrow lot. I have a minute left, but I'm sick. I'm sick, tired of 57 years. I watch my town go to, you know what? I can't say it because I'm a man of decency. And I'm a man of principle. And if you mean what's on that card that my landlord's about to show you, that you highlighted in yellow, that you don't want what we're all talking about today. 54 units for who? Right, Jeanette? Right, my neighbor? You left your readers over here. I'm telling you, this is wrong. 10 seconds, I yelled back, sick and disgusted.
Next I have Thomas Ricky. Okay. I don't have any other slips on this item. Is there anybody that did not, if there anybody else that did not sign in that would like to speak, if you just go to the back there and give your name and address, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Oder. I live at 757 Bixby Drive in Baldwin. And to dovetail off of Thomas, if Thomas is upset because his property is right across the street from the proposed development, I am alarmingly, vehemently, and I don't even know if there's an appropriate adjective to describe how blown away I am to have received this letter yesterday. I got it yesterday. I am just as upset as him, probably more so upset, because my house, my home that I've lived in for 38 years, that I've raised my children in, is right in the middle of this nightmare. Michael Cesari's funeral home, if you stand in my backyard, is all the way in the left corner of the back of my property. His parking lot is the back part of my property, and I'm going to be stuck in the middle of this absolute horrific nightmare. I feel for Thomas because those of us that are going to be caught in this triangle here are going to be the most impacted. And I'm going to tell you that when I got the letter, I thought that this was going to be about the project that is proposed to be on Grand Avenue and Sunrise Highway, which we've been battling over and talking about. It wasn't until I sat down here that I realized that this is Michael Ciceri's property. And I'm going to tell you that if you think that you're going to build this, you better come and buy my property too, because my property is going to be worthless. Don't talk to me about the 15-foot buffer and your landscaping and what it's going to look like. So now I'm going to have a gigantic building right in my backyard with parking lots. And as Thomas said, who's going to live there? I pay $17,000 a year in real estate taxes to live in blighted Baldwin. Drive around Baldwin. Go take a look at what's going on there. You have empty buildings, you have abandoned commercial property, it's a disgrace. Oh, but let's put nice flowers and roses and perfume on this wonderful building that you're going to build here. Baldwin has been the blighted ovum of Nassau County. I went to Merrick the other day. I can't believe what they did in the Merrick Shopping Center at Lytle. Brand new restaurants, Sephora went in there. Every town in Nassau County gets revitalized. What happened to Baldwin? So I'm going to tell you, I only have 20 more seconds. I need like 20 more hours. I want to meet with these planners. I want to meet with these attorneys. I will do everything in my power to stop this unless they're going to buy my property, because my property is going to be worth nothing when you build this. And I want to know why I have to pay $17,000 a year in real estate taxes when people on the North Shore are paying $8,000 for $1 million homes. And just real quickly to dovetail off Rhonda.
The time is, this is one question. You signal a letter you have. If you could do me a favor, maybe somebody could get a copy of that letter, and we could make it part of the record, because I don't have that letter. So one of the staff is going to take and make a copy of it, so we can submit it, so we have it for the record, okay?
Yes.
Thank you. I know I saw a couple other people that didn't, there were a couple other people that didn't sign it. That really great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eric Stutz, Baldwin resident for 22 years, 2307 Harrison Avenue. It is a legal two-family. That's one of the reasons I bought it. You know, I could see maybe developing this lot into one or two families at max, but 54 units is completely ridiculous. I'm strongly opposed to it. A few of my neighbors couldn't take off of work today to be here, but I know they're strongly opposed to it as well. Not to mention that we just approved, or the town just approved a 225 unit 100 feet away from this lot with the main entrance on Harrison Avenue. I mean, this is just totally ridiculous, strongly opposed, and like the previous speaker, I'd like to have a sit down with all the planners and the attorneys as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that there was another resident that didn't sign it, wanted to speak. If it didn't come up, that's fine. If you give your name and address to the record, that'd be great.
Hi, yes, my name is Kelly Duggan. I live next to Eric at 2315 Harrison Avenue. Again, we have that 200-plus building that was approved, which didn't have enough parking to begin with. Now you want another building directly next to it, which is across the street from our home. 54 units that doesn't have enough space for, what is it? The landscaping plus parking. We also have the Grand Avenue projects. Their parking lot is just down at the end of Harrison going towards Merrick, which we have as well. This is overkill. I know that, Mr. Clavin, you have been opposed to all of this urbanization, so we don't need double, and it's too much for our residential. Harrison Avenue should not be the poster child for the urbanization that Governor Hochul wants. Please, oppose this.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this, ma'am, if you go back there, right there. Name and address for the record, thank you.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. One thing I hear at these meetings quite frequently, not as much as in the past, but that many people say this is the first time I've been to a town board meeting, and that is very helpful to our community to see what's going on in our government. I agree with the premise about the governor. I wouldn't put her in charge of a dollhouse. Putting that aside, I think a lot of people put faith, especially in you, Supervisor Clavin. I know I have, and you've come through at times. This is not 2019 anymore, where people are not paying attention. They're paying such close attention. Whether it was COVID that woke people up, whether it was the presidential election, I just know that people are paying attention. And people also entrusted this board to make decisions, whether it's on behalf of taxpayers, residents, animals, especially for me, the animals, whether it's minorities, especially the environment. I'm just going to say this. No incentive, if there is one, is ever worth losing faith and having the public lose faith in an administration. No incentive. So I hope that you consider everything that the people here spoke about. We need you. You were entrusted to protect the environment, to protect citizens, to keep taxes lowered. And I hope you do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gina Broadway. I live at 2339 Harrison Avenue. And just like the other individuals who are here to represent Harrison Avenue, I am here also. The nightmare that you are about to unleash on Harrison Avenue is absolutely ridiculous to me that the board doesn't see this. Right now, the parking situation that will occur on Harrison Avenue as a result of not only this unit, but the other unit that is scheduled to be built there is going to cause just chaos, as was said before. The parking is one thing. Who is going to rent these buildings? They're not vested in our neighborhood as we are vested in our neighborhood. All the things that were said here today, I am going to repeat because they're all very true. There's no way that anyone can say that any of the individuals that spoke today are speaking in a miscommunicated kind of way. We know exactly what will happen. My property value will go down. It will overcrowd the area. We're going to have a big halt in the precinct doing what they have to do, and the police going to where they have to go. You have another unit over some, I think 200 units plus this unit. Yes, it is overkill. What more did you as a board need to understand? And of course, one more thing, we entrusted this board to do the right thing for Baldwin as well. Thank you.
Good morning, name and address, please.
Calvo, 2360 Harrison Avenue, Baldwin. I was here for the last hearing that was already a done deal. So today I wasn't even going to speak to you because I felt it was a done deal again. And then when there's $200,000, community money at large, I just want to reiterate that lately, I'm very disappointed in government overall. 2 years ago, I should have moved to Florida because my taxes are out of control also. My son never went to public school. I put him in parochial school, even through Fordham College. He's a police officer in National Guard. So I feel we give back, and I'm a retired nurse. This is enough already. Drive up and down Grand Avenue. Our property value is going to plummet. As already you've heard, you already approved those 215 apartments. No one's going to open stores. You've got buildings all along Grand Avenue that they should tear them down. They had to close a barber shop, nail salon, bodega, liquor store. So you've already got condemned buildings on Grand Avenue you can help repair. Elected officials, that again, I repeat, I voted for you guys last time. I'm going to think twice this time. And I have always worked in a multi-diverse population, gave my heart and soul for what I did as a nurse for a very long time, and I feel that we have been abandoned and we are not being listened to, and that you have these hearings just to satisfy your books. And yes, we already have apartment buildings along Grand Avenue, and thank God we have some low-income housing. Look at that housing they put up where Roosevelt Raceway was, okay? Almost $800,000 my cousin paid for that. Look at Mineola, one bedroom, $3,000 a month to overlook the railroad. And I asked you guys the last time, are you going to lower our taxes because it's not going to be residential or suburban? You had the audacity to send us those postcards when Governor Hochul said she wanted to put this housing at every railroad. When you look at that railroad station, they have big trucks parked in it now because since the pandemic, we had cars from Freeport to Oceanside parked in that parking lot along Sunrise. You're lucky you get those two big blocks.
Good job. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
What's being said today. Thank you,
Thank you very much. Did anybody else that did not speak yet, did not sign in?
Yeah.
Name and address, please.
Harry Montalbano, Park Avenue, Baldwin, Government Liaison for Baldwin Civic Association. I have to note that yes, we have talked with this developer, we've tried to work with them, and they have been working with us, which is a very positive thing. Transit-oriented development will bring in people to help support the stores and help support what we need to make our community grow. That is one of the reasons why we have backed the transit-oriented development. The BCA has backed transit-oriented development, the Baldwin Civic Overlay District. I understand the parking concerns. I think that the town may need to step in on that. The person who brought up the committee has probably got a very good solution. But we need to continue to develop to bring in more people to support our town. If I'm not mistaken, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, these are market rate apartments. These are not apartments aimed at low income or affordable. That's going to bring in people who are going to be able to spend in our community. Thank you very much.
Anybody else wish to outside that hasn't spoken already? Ms. Alvarez, look, obviously, you're hearing a lot of concern of residents who live at Drumming Street with the parking. In addition, I do have a couple of questions. Do you plan on going to the IDA?
Yes, there is an application pending with the
Okay, and what about your feelings on prevailing wage?
IDA. Yes, the prevailing wage will be pending.
You're going to have to a full discussion with the IDA about prevailing wage. That, okay, absolutely.
I didn't hear, what did you say?
I said we'll speak with the IDA, and if it even gets that far, and about prevailing wage, which is an issue particularly with unions, to make sure that union jobs are kept union jobs, and we don't outsource them to anybody. But I'm more concerned that I think you know, there is a lot of questions that the residents have brought forth that really, I think, warrant taking the time to meet with the residents and discuss it with you. I just, you know, you can see the passion. You can hear their concerns, and everybody should. You know, they have a lot on the line, and I respect that tremendously of them. So with that, if you'd like to have any closing thoughts or make any remarks, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, we also appreciate the comments from the community on both sides. You know, we obviously heard both sides today. You know, just to clear up a few, you know, misconceptions, I'd like to do that initially. But, you know, we definitely hear you, Supervisor, and welcome the opportunity to speak with the folks who spoke today, because we do want to answer the questions that did arise. You know, we want to make sure that you know, it's clear on a couple of things, including, you know, again, this is a market rate development. The purpose of it is to bring in those young professionals and the folks who, you know, may not want to hold on to their house anymore, but they want to stay on Long Island. And they're all Long Islanders, and they're folks that want to be a part of the Baldwin community just like everyone else. The other points I'd like to make involve just the proposal itself. As mentioned, we've gone through quite extensively to make sure that in terms of traffic and parking that has been fully vetted and reviewed, and has been reviewed during the entirety of this process. In fact, to the point of parking, we would just like to point out that we have been very conservative in our numbers in terms of what we're proposing for this site. While we're proposing 69 spaces, we actually have 10 more spaces that are going to be accommodated on the lawn itself. And that's intended for folks who have perhaps more than one car in their unit, so that it can be accommodated on site. As we mentioned, the proximity to the train station is the real key here, and the key to creating a development that can accommodate the parking that will go on the site, and for folks to not necessarily have to get in their car and frequent the stores within Baldwin rather than get in their car. And that's really the whole point of this development. So again, we have been working all along with as many folks as we can, including the Civic Association on this. But certainly, if there are further questions, we're here to answer them for them and to make sure that this development is in keeping with what was envisioned for this area and for the community at large. So thank you.
I have a few questions, Mr. Supervisor, if I may. Did you perform any study of how this would impact the school district?
Yes. Yes. So we included that as part of our secret review. We included analysis to evaluate the number of school children, and I think it was on the order of single digits, if that, in terms of the production of school-age children. It's simply because of the fact of who these developments typically cater to. It's towards the young, it's towards perhaps even the folks, the old, the folks who, again, don't necessarily want to hold on to their house but want to stay in Long Island. So it's those folks, and that's really why, in the end, the production of school children is not very high.
And is there a percentage of workforce housing incorporated into this development?
For this development, as stated, this is market rate. And the reason behind it was this. The intention was for this community and for this overlay district, there's an interest, I think, in terms of a diversity of housing options. And so in this particular case, the market rate would be offered. But I also know that as part of this development, it stands apart from the other developments that have already been before this board, in that during the DRI process, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative process, this G2B declined seeking funds under that $10 million availability, as opposed to the other two developments which did, and it had workforce. So that sets this development apart as well.
No.
Thank you.
Deputy Supervisor,
I'd like to ask a question. One way you had a letter. Did you send that out to everybody in the area that was involved with this?
Of course. So
did you send them out?
Yes, so we're required by the rules of the town to send them out to the radius of the community. I believe it's 200 feet, 300 feet, forgive me. And it was sent out 10 days before. We understand that sometimes it takes a couple of deliveries for the certified to reach folks, so that might explain the reason why one of the speakers had noted it. And the folks in the radius all received it. We provided proof of noticing to the town themselves.
I got mine yesterday.
okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen, please.
You will take care of that, I'm sure, in the future.
Okay. All right, Mr. Alvarez, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion of order?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board reserve decision.
I move to reserve decision.
Councilman Carini? Councilman Carini? Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby?
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller? Aye. Councilman Muscarelli?
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryan?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Alvarez, I will point out that, we did reserve decision, and I would ask you, to reach out to the residents on a number of the concerns. All right? Thank you very much. You've made the commitment. I appreciate that. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have the application of A.B. Malvern LLC for a variance from the provisions of the GSS ordinance to operate a self-service at an existing service station and to operate a convenience store, demolish existing gasoline service station, to construct a one-story 26 by 46 foot convenience store, install fuel dispensing pumps, construct overhead canopy over 3 pump islands, and other associated site improvements including grading, landscaping, paving, parking, curbing, and lighting, and to modify and rescind existing restrictive covenants in order to modify a previously approved site plan in Malvern.
Good morning, Council. If you give me your name and address for the record.
Yes, good morning, Supervisor Clavin, Deputy Supervisor Boothby, honorable members of the board, Council Madam Clerk. It's a beautiful day in the town of Hempstead. Kevin O'Brien on behalf of the applicant's offices, O'Brien Law PC offices at 462 Saginaw Avenue, East Williston, New York, here on behalf of the applicant. My apologies, frankly, that it's taken us sort of like this long to get the site plans to the format, which I think is appropriate. We worked before the board back in June, and we had a couple of different architects working on it, but I believe that we have everything appropriate now. So since we did have a full hearing, I won't bore the board and the members of the public with all the details that we had gone through before. But what I would like to do is at least offer some of the changes that have been made in connection with the application. Really nothing substantial.
Well, hold on, Mr. O'Brien. Are these actually going to be like a presentation of changes this time around? Is this like a firm one this time? Before we go down the rabbit hole with you,
this is
you're not going to spring any surprises on us because we've accommodated you on 2 occasions, and it is a beautiful day here in Hempstead. But I will tell you this right now. Like I said, Are all your plans submitted this time?
Yes, they are.
Okay, have you talked to the residents? And you can see I'm a little frustrated because this is now the third time this has been on the calendar. And you know what? I want to make sure it's done correctly. I want to make sure the residents are all informed before we even start this presentation. Because at the end of it, I don't want to have to say, we're going to adjourn it again. Is this going to be fair to say you've done everything in due diligence on this case?
Yes, I have.
Okay, great.
So essentially, what we've done is, we did not have colored renderings of the code, we did not have colored site plans. So the site plans that are on the screen depict landscaping that has been added around the perimeter of the property. Also, we submitted to the board cut sheets, which actually depicts the actual varieties of landscaping that are being proposed. So the location of the building remains the same, the location of the pump island remains the same, the location of the canopy remains the same. The plan that's aboard, that's up on the screen right now, depicts the varieties and the type of landscaping, the location, and the colors of it. And if we could switch to, we have an elevational drawing, that shows the landscaping, and what we have made a substantial change to is the architectural design of the building. So we were not satisfied with the architectural design that we had before. This is a residential area, a residential community. So what we have done is, as far as the actual building is concerned, the location is the same size, the footprint is the same size. So we've not changed anything like that, but we have changed the nature of the building, the materials that we're using with respect to that. So we know we have the farm down the road, so we kind of put a cupola on there. The building itself, we're very proud of the architectural design, how it's going to look. And we did not have that in the hearings before. So what we have before the board is the completely revised architectural design. But I do want to make it clear that the size of the building is not changed, the location of the building is not changed. We've also incorporated that same architecture into the canopy design itself as well, so that they will both match one another. Once again, the setbacks for the setbacks for the pump islands and for the canopy, the building, all that has remained identical. It's the design and the materials that has changed. And other than that, everything remains the same. And I do have my design, one of the little bit of confusion, we did have two design professionals in connection with this project. I do have Michael Rubenstein from Art Designs here with me today, so if there are any questions on the site plan, we can certainly address them. As outlined, those are the changes that have been made, and we think it is, I'm really proud of the architectural design, the elements, the buffers that we incorporated.
Now, if I may, I'm looking at the plans, and they're quite detailed, and you mentioned last meeting that you were going to have a flagpole and everything on the property, and I don't see that on the
Yeah, I think they're going to put the flagpole at the south side of the property.
Think they're going to do it, or are they going to do it?
Yes, they are going to put it on the south side of the property.
I have a question. Is this expected to be open 24 hours? What are the hours?
No, it would be, we'd be looking at 5 in the morning to about 11 o'clock at night.
Okay, and the only entrances on this map I'm seeing here are from on the Hempstead Avenue portion of it?
That's correct. There is a corner over there, but the corner, if you look at the radius mapping of the property, I think it's Morris, if my recollection is correct, to the south.
Yeah.
There's a grass strip over there. It's actually owned by the neighbor. The only entrance and exits are going to be on Hempstead Avenue, and the entrance, basically the entrance only on the north side and an exit only on the south side. No left-hand turns.
Question. So these new plans were submitted Friday? Is that correct?
Let's see. We had submitted, yes, we had.
And And so how have you updated everybody? They're all aware of these new plans, the community, everybody's been clued in?
The mayor, communication with the mayor, the community has not received a copy of these plans. The plans get filed with the clerk's office.
You know, it's a Tuesday. It's October 3rd. I respectfully, counsel, I asked you if we were you had everything in place and you had set this thing up and we weren't gonna have any last minute, bumps in the road that were gonna be an indication that not everybody was on board. And you said you did. Maybe I'll have the town clerk read that back, but I did. Councilwoman Miller asked a very relevant question. If the people who live around this thing have gotten the plans, and now the answer is, well, no, the answer is,
no.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure I don't need the maybe. The answer is no. It's a very relevant question to raise. That's a concern. Wouldn't you agree?
I had met with some, and there are some people, quite frankly, you're not going to be able to make everybody happy.
Okay, but Mr. O'Brien, I'm going to read it back to you because I know I asked you. I said, so did the residents get the plans before Friday? And I wrote, I take notes. Everybody knows the way it is. You said no, but I wrote that down in big letters right here. That's a concern for everybody on the board. Like I said, this has been a task in person, and I don't want to rehash, your past renderings of gas stations that were fictitious imaginations that were. This is a really nice rendering. I am very appreciative of it. I know that that residents in the area, want to be kept informed on this. I appreciate you letting us know that. I know there are a number of residents that came down here. I see that one of them is, now it's not the incorporated portion of this project, but I see that the mayor's here. We'll hear from the mayor and we'll get his thoughts on this too, okay? Okay. Is there anybody else you want to bring up and talk about it?
Like I said, I do have the design professional, if there are any questions there. And as I mentioned before, the location of everything has remained the same. It's really more aesthetic and design than buffer and landscaping.
Okay.
That's been changed. Everything else remains the same.
Okay. First, I know I saw the mayor of Malvern's here. Mayor Sullivan, thanks for taking the time yet again to come on down here.
Supervisor, board members, thank you for having us this morning. As you noted, Supervisor, we are in the incorporated village of Malvern and do not hold jurisdiction over this property, but I would like to say on behalf of the incorporated village of Malvern, its residents, and especially our board, I'm accompanied today by my fellow board member, Trustee Lori Lang, that we have been provided these renderings and an updated site plan, and they do address the items that we have discussed both here publicly and in private with the applicant's attorney and architect who've been forthcoming with us as a village, have been working with us very diligently on presenting really one of the nicest gas station designs I've ever seen. Hopefully they are upheld to that design. But I am glad with the outcome. I think it blends in well with the immediate community, although I do not represent Malvern Park. I do try and help them as best as I can. But our concerns have been met. We're happy with the outcome, and we're appreciative, especially of your efforts with putting us together with the applicant. I think this is a product of good government between the town and the village and private business. Thank you.
I appreciate Mayor, and like I said, I appreciate the trustee coming in last time, and kudos to Mr. O'Brien for taking the time to meet with you and address the concerns that you're at a comfort level. So I'm very, very grateful for that. Now, I might say the name wrong, but I don't think there's any relationship. I do have a Christopher Serini here. Sereni. Now we got a Councilman Carini. That's Chris Carini. So I want to make sure that
Chris Sereni, 10 Hempstead Avenue, Malvern. I appreciate the renderings. I think they look fantastic. But why aren't the actual houses that are around it in the photo? So, let's
let's make it real.
What's your address? So I can-
10 Atlas. I abut the side of the property.
Gotcha.
Quick question to it, if a meeting is adjourned, are they supposed to send an additional letter out and change the signage outside of this gas station with the correct date? Because none of that was done.
As long as we adjourn it to a set date from one hearing to another, there's no further requirement of notice.
Just curious. Hours of operation, 11 o'clock is obscene. It's the middle of a residential neighborhood. 9 o'clock is pushing it, but doable. Having this gigantic canopy doesn't make any sense. I've made a list, I went on Google Maps for 5 minutes and found 9 gas stations with no canopies over any of the lots. At least it would then blend in with the neighborhood, it would look like a house, although there's gas pumps there, but this canopy, it's 18 feet in the air. I look out my window and all I see is a giant canopy. My neighbor's selling beer, or obviously no liquor, it's not a liquor store, beer and whatnot at night. We originally did speak about when it's closed, the lights off. The driveways need to have a chain on them so people can't park in there at night because all sorts of weird things happen in there when there's no fencing up. What else? When and if the building does come down, is there going to be a lead abatement? Asbestos? There's raccoons living in there right now. There's rats and there's squirrels. So I want to make sure those things are addressed. The property still is not cleaned up. It's a disaster still. There's still an excavated behind the building hiding. They're not following through on what they're doing. I don't believe any of this is going to take place. So I'm still trying to figure out why the building department would give them a permit to change the tanks in the ground with, you can't use what they put in right now because the buildings are gone. So that's kind of shady that that whole thing went through. And I believe there was supposed to be a hearing set if they changed the tank size in the ground. Originally there was 2 8,000-gallon tanks, no, 2 6,000-gallon tanks and an 8,000-gallon tank. There's now 2 20,000-gallon tanks. I've got 40,000 gallons of gasoline sitting in my backyard. Is there going to be a concrete wall put up along my property line that's going to hold the car back? A guardrail will not do it. Guardrail is meant to be hit on the side, not head on. The traffic is going to be, as it is, the board approved those 12 condo units, I think they are. They're not finished yet. That's going to add more traffic. Has a traffic study been done on the gas station yet? There's a lot of just unanswered questions. I've never seen any of this stuff, and I live next door to the property. Thank you.
No, we appreciate you coming in. Now, I don't have anybody. We'll get things.
No,
I don't have any other slips on this item before we bring up to the council again. Is there anybody that did not sign in that wishes to be heard of this? Mr. Kelly, sure.
Felix Pocacci, Franklin Square. Don, I agree with your frustration on this issue. See, we agree on something. I've mentioned this, I don't know how many months, maybe a couple of years ago. Plan is that before an application is presented, the plan should be put on the website along with the resolution so the residents can see what's going to be done. So they can see what's missing. If the flagpole is missing, if the wall is missing, if there's a canopy they don't like, so they're well informed. Having a standard procedure, so it's not a question of, subjectivity, that we require all applicants to submit their plans to the town prior, so many days prior to the meeting, so they can be put on the website and everybody can see what's going on. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else that did not sign in wishes to be heard of this? All right, Counselor. Look, in particular, Counselor, and like I said, I do appreciate the fact that you did meet with the mayor and the trustees. You have the abutting neighbor who has raised a number of concerns. Have you had any direct conversations with him?
Try to. And forgive me, I know in the beginning I had multiple conversations with multiple neighbors. I'm not 100% sure if the gentleman that I spoke with or not was the other contiguous. I know there was concern about the buffer, so we increased the buffer. And dimensionally, everything has remained the same. The issue, the changes really that have been made have been more architectural, landscaping, and buffer.
Well, he had some direct, so let me, because I take notes. That he wanted to know about, will there be alcohol beer sold at the store?
And I believe that was discussed at the first hearing. And
Okay, the answer is?
Yes.
Okay. He had a concern about lighting. If the facility closes at 11 or 9 o'clock, will the lighting go on or will the lighting be turned off?
The lighting would be turned off, well, signage lighting. We typically would ask for, say, a half an hour within the interior of the premises, so if they're closed, you know, if they're cleaning up and there's lights on in the interior. The exterior would be closed, but the interior would be on, say, for half an hour just to clean up before they leave.
Councilman Dunn pointed this out, that there was the question of would there be a willingness to chain off the property when not used to avoid people coming in there and driving their cars or parking or lingering in the area.
Yeah, I see no objection to that.
Deputy Mayor just raised a valid concern. She is concerned about the traffic flow going from the area and getting on Hempstead traffic. Was there any sort of additional traffic study down there?
We've submitted it to the Hempstead County Department of Public Works. The one thing I would point out is that the filings that are proposed are further away from where the pump islands previously existed at the site. So the design professionals who designed it, felt that they're pulling the cars off the road, enabling more fueling positions, so this way there shouldn't be any queuing onto the street. So the design professionals do that.
I have another question.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
Being where that is there going to be a sign that says no left turn, that you can't pull out of the station and cross over that one road that goes into Hempstead Avenue and the others that go to down Ocean? That would be very dangerous.
Yes, we designed it such a way it's going to be, I think I might have mentioned earlier, where it's going to be right-hand turn on the north side, so entrance only on the north, exit only on the south, and we can put no left-hand turns in there. It's going to be designed in such a way to channel the traffic in that.
You're going to flow the traffic into the village?
Correct.
Mayor's going to be real happy about that.
And there's going to be no access to the side road, the abutting side road, is that correct?
That is correct.
What I will say is, perhaps the one neighbor has made it a point of coming yet again to the meeting, and I think he's raised some concerns. Maybe the discussion can take place with him. You've made, and I appreciate it again. You did take some time and you've made some assurances about lighting and fencing. Maybe an additional conversation with him to alleviate his concerns. He seems like a very reasonable individual. He's has, I don't think, anything overwhelmingly negative on a couple of things he's raised up. Perhaps you could have a discussion with him to lessen his concerns about what could transpire at that property.
And anybody else in the community who doesn't know about it might have similar or different objections or questions, or they deserve the opportunity to be updated.
Certainly. I can be in the back room right now.
Fantastic. That would be great. So with that he's willing to meet with the residents. Are there any other questions of the board? Okay. Are there any other questions from residents that didn't testify, didn't sign in? Anything you want to add in before we make any sort of motion?
No, I just like I said, I think it's going to be positive impact on the community. We're willing to condition to the items that we discussed earlier, and I think it's just going to be a substantial improvement to this particular site and the surrounding community. We tried to take in as best we possibly can the comments that we heard.
Okay. We appreciate it. We have the opportunity, but like I said, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I move the public hearing be closed and that the board reserve decision.
Reserve decision, okay. You did. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Greenie.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Again, obviously we reserve decision, and I appreciate Mr. O'Brien's presentation. I appreciate the neighbor in particular who came down here today. And as you heard, Mr. O'Brien actually said he would take the time to go right in the back and talk about some of your concerns, and we try to address a few of them that were fair questions, and I said, I think their response was more in line with what you would hope for, and they seem to be very receptive to being very good neighbors to you. So what I would say to you is perhaps you'll have discussion back there, and perhaps you'll follow up with your councilwoman about your thoughts after the program. Fair enough? Thank you very much. We appreciate it. See if things happen. All right. Rolling along here, folks. Madam Clerk, I'm going to call the administrative calendar.
Yeah, so the administrative calendar, we have items 11 through 42.
Does any member of the board wish to speak on any of the items on the administrative calendar? All right, I know, we'll move first. Can I have a motion on the administrative calendar?
Move the administrative calendar 11 through 42.
Supervisor Clayton. Councilman Greenie.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella. Councilwoman Ryder.
Mr. Ricacci?
Yes.
Felix Ricacci, Franklin Square. Item number 34, the preliminary budget. I think that we should have multiple days, just like your Village of Garden City budget workshops, so we could get input from people on what they want to see in the budget, what they don't want to see in the budget. Right now, we're one of the only areas that I know that cram everything. We have the largest budget, probably in the whole Long Island, if not the whole country, as far as towns are concerned. Yet we just cram it into 2 sessions in which everyone gets only 3 minutes to speak. You should extend the time, if not eliminate the time. The Village of Floral Park goes through every budget item. Each trustee is given one area and they go exhaustive and everybody gets to talk as long as they want on those issues. I think that's a better way to do a budget than to just have 2 sessions where we get 3 minutes to talk about a $500 million budget. Also, on your number 42, your resolution to do the eminent domain on 434 Hempstead Turnpike. I oppose the calling of this hearing. The town recently had a hearing to declare it a public nuisance. You did everything wrong. Whether it's right to call it a public nuisance or not, you did everything wrong. You didn't notice it properly, everything, the number of days, everything was done wrong. And also, you never presented any evidence. If people talk in the courtroom, they have to be put under oath. It's not considered evidence. If someone just talks and you say, he said this and she said that, that's not considered evidence. In your resolution here, as small as it is, it says you spoke to residents. That's not. You didn't provide, where's the affidavit, where's the testimony. You may be right in doing this, but you didn't do the work right. You were frustrated with Mr. O'Brien not doing things right. You're not doing things right. You got to do it by the book. Okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Mr. McCarthy, and I do want to thank you very much for pointing out that we did submit the budget, and I know you'll be delighted to know that once again here in the town of Hempstead, and aside from getting our AAA bond rating, the town board is working together, and we're happy to freeze taxes while making investments there. Absolutely, and that's a credit really to the great men and women, and somebody that I always like to take the time to craft. He's very, very passionate. He's I frankly think the finest controller in New York State, and I'll tell you, John Massamarino, we're lucky to have you here. Thank you very much. I appreciate your analysis that you partake on the hearing. Just so you know, there was evidence taken into account. Everything was followed procedurally correct. And the people who actually have law degrees actually did a wonderful presentation, and I do think the inspector who came from the procedure and also submitted evidence really speaks volumes. So, I just want to point that out. I don't have any other slips on the administrative calendar. Administrative calendar? Sure. How you doing? Give me the name and address for the record, thank you.
Jacobs, Uniondale. Item 34, I agree with Mr. Bacchia that the budget meeting should be held over a span of 2 days. It's our money. We should have more say in how our money is spent, our tax money is spent. And speaking on behalf of a resident of Uniondale, an underserved community, with taxation without representation, we should have more time to speak on our issues. And item 41, is that still on the next record? Yeah, item 41. I would like to know, please provide the scope of this project and what is the proximity to the Uniondale High School pertaining to this project?
Mr. Dan Attorney? Reinhardt's going to go on? General. To identify yourself. That would be great.
Good morning, Supervisor Clayton, members of the town board, Commissioner Reinhardt, Department of Water. Item 41 is calling a hearing to add a cell provider to the water tower at 1000 Hempstead Boulevard in Uniondale.
I asked you whether it's the proximity to the high school. You know the proximity, it's on Hempstead, it's right, Hempstead Boulevard is right near the proximity to the high school. Can you tell me how close it is to the high school? Because cell technology, there are some issues with health issues pertaining to cell technology in the proximity to residents and schools.
I don't have the information here. I'll have the information at the hearing. This is just calling the hearing for the next meeting.
Yeah, because there's satellite technology, there's cell technology, there's also exposure to RF radiation, and it comes along with data study has shown headaches, dizziness, depression, memory impacts, cancer, and even childhood leukemia. So I really need to meet with you about this and bring some people from the community because the cell tower, we have too much of those cell towers close to Turtle Hook School, Turtle Hook Junior High School as well. And it's very close proximity, and that's a concern. And we want to mitigate that from adding any more to that tower. And we need to speak about this proposed tower or this building that's going to be adjacent to that tower in close proximity to Uniondale High School.
Okay, well, you'll have the November 21st, 2023 here to come to. That's great.
I will be here.
Okay.
Good.
Any other slips that did not sign an administrative calendar? Okay. With that, can I make a motion to adjourn?
Second. Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Boothby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Okay. I'm going to take a 10-minute break and then we'll start at the public comment. All right, so we'll start at approximately 12:10, 12:15. Thank you.
I got my daughter doing that.
All right. Now the formal portion of the program is over. Now the public comment where we are here to listen to residents speak. And we have a number of residents who have signed in here today. We'll start with Ray Stenny. Hi, good afternoon. If you give your name and address for the record, thanks.
My name is Raz Denny. I live in Uniondale. I have two subjects I basically want to talk to you about. One is in reference to, I just want to give a shout out to one of the people who basically work with you guys, and he covers the Uniondale area. His name is Mr. Peter Caparelli. I have contacted him on several different occasions and in reference to violations that occurred in Uniondale, and he has been very, very receptive to that. And he does an investigation and does the correction. So I must applaud him for that. Thank you very much for Mr. Caparelli. My other subject matter is Mr. Clavin. There is a flyer that came out with your name on it. And it basically states that you are protecting our suburbs. And you basically went against what the governor had said about trying to build up, the housing, over 30,000 extra people, with the housing in Nassau, but you were against that, which I definitely agree with. But what I don't understand is why you and your council members have not spoken about the mega gambling casino, the third largest, that's going to be constructed in Uniondale at the Nassau Coliseum by the Sands Corporation. All of you are fully aware of the pros and cons of a casino. I don't have to tell you about what accompanies that. But if you are basically saying yes to these people, you are giving your blessing to destroy the neighborhood that you said that you would protect. Not only Uniondale, all the surrounding neighborhoods. And all you have to do is basically look on any evidence that is there for you to look at in reference to what a gambling casino does. Around all of these colleges, around all of the elementary schools, etc., we're exposing our children to this. And I don't think it's right. Search your conscience, see what's going on, guys, because election is coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Danny. I just want to add to you, though, there is nothing that is guaranteed in life. I will say that to anybody, and I think the town board and I have committed to this, that whatever is may or may not be, because there is one proposal, and we don't even know if the state's going to get there. I can guarantee you one thing: it's going to be a very open, very transparent, and very inviting air that we're going to ask the residents to come down and give their concerns, if they're for it or if they're against it. That I can guarantee you. So you use the word that, there is no that, and I just want you to rest assured that we're going to make sure that you're informed of it, you're going to have an opportunity to be heard on it, and we're going to represent all the residents in the town of Hempstead. Next I have Frank Pedigano.
My name is Frank Pedagno. I live at 4 Wellneck Drive in Merrick. My wife and I have lived there since 2001. I'm a 77-year-old Vietnam veteran, and I serve as an officer in the American Legion. A boat lift has been installed in the narrowest part of the canal behind my home. The canal is 39 foot wide, and the lift protrudes 14 feet into the canal and is positioned directly across from my floating dock. It poses a hazard to navigation and greatly reduces the value of my property. In February of 2023, this project began when a barge belonging to Kitson arrived. I spoke with the contractor and learned that plans had been approved to install not one but 2 boat lifts on the new bulkhead that was being installed. On March 6, 2023, I spoke to Evelyn of the town of Hempstead Waterways, was told that a man named Bob W. would call me to explain the plans. I never heard from Bob W., and the bulkhead work continued. I followed up with Evelyn on May 15th and was again told that Bob W. would contact me to explain the plans. Again, I never heard from Bob W. On Friday, June 16th, the barge began deriving piles for the boat lifts. One of the lifts was placed directly opposite my floating dock. My wife spoke to the foreman of the construction team, who was also a crane operator, and he told her he realizes that no traffic will ever be able to get up past the boat lift, and no bulkhead repairs will ever be able to take place, since a barge cannot get by the lift. The current status is that the lift has been installed, although a work stoppage is in place. The lift poses a danger to navigation and greatly reduces the value of my property since I cannot use my floating dock. Numerous officials have visited the property and viewed the installed lift. All agreed it must be moved On January 23rd, I spoke with Sergeant Brennan, the Bay Constable, and told the homeowner was given a choice of either moving the lift or losing it. On August 15th, I finally received a call from Bob W. He explained the approval of the permits for the lift was a mistake. He took full responsibility and said it must be moved. On August 25th, my neighbor Gary Moses and I met with Mr. Doheny, Commissioner of the Waterways for the town of Hempstead. I presented my resume, a copy of the document prepared by another homeowner, and Gary presented photos and measurements. As of today, the lift remains. It was approved by mistake and represents a hazard to navigation.
Okay, we've at 3 minutes. I'm going to direct the town attorney to take your contact information so you can talk to the town attorney directly about this. You know, he's going to follow up with you.
This meeting's out.
He's going to get you. Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. Okay, thank you. Next, Councilwoman Supervisor.
Next person I have is Frank Paglioni. That's right. Okay, so you finished. Okay, Gary Moses.
I live next door to Mr. Jack, and what he's saying is correct. The development is a violation of town regulations. I've been an environmental consultant and design professional for environmental structures for 23 years. Prior to that, I was a member of the New York City Police Department. I retired as a police captain. I spent 5 years at the NYPD Marine Corps reviewing these structural plans. The City of New York for Corporation Council, I've done interagency operations with the Army Corps of Engineers, New York State DEC, etc. This bubble lift is in strong violation of town regulations. The town regulations has very strong wording that forbids any type of seaward structure to take up more than 25% of the canal. This structure takes up 35% of the canal. How this got approved, I have no idea. Mr. Canal has a mooring float that extends 7 feet into the canal. This float extends 13 feet into the canal. That's 20 feet plus the hardware that contains these structures. There are 22 feet of the canal that's being taken up in a 39-foot canal. Mr. Pagano puts a boat in front of his house. It'll be another 9 feet. It'll be impossible for anybody to pass that area. An average construction barge measures about 23 feet in width. That's the smallest one I know in Nassau County. There is no way anybody will ever be able to get any work done on their property. No bulkheads can be able to be installed, no mooring floats. This guy, what you allow is you allow this guy to have a water park in his backyard. He has 2 mooring floats, 2 boat lifts, a jet ski float. I mean, nobody in the canal has that. And it's like crazy. I think what happened was, it's an environmental consultant. Is that you have nobody reviewing these permits. You have the most waterfront property in the 2 counties, and you have one person that reviews them on a part-time basis for 4 hours every week. You need a bigger staff. I mean, this should never happen. You've evaluated 9 properties. I mean, I couldn't give my house away right now. And nobody's going to come. The flood insurance is supposed to $4,000. And not being able to put a boat there or get any type of work done on my property is crazy. I mean, how could this have gotten approved? Like I said, you have one person that comes in part-time that reviews all these applications. I mean, there are towns that have 17 people. The town of Hempstead has the lowest application fees in the 2 counties. I mean, for a bulkhead replacement, we charge 50 cents a foot. It's like crazy. I mean, you have to just increase your fees and hire people to review these permits.
Okay, thank you, sir.
We'll get some information and we'll get back to you either this afternoon or tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. The next person is Bill Picachi.
Bill Picachi, Franklin Square. At the September 6th hearing regarding the Capri Motel, when asked whether the town provided a 10-day notice
of the August 31st hearing to the property owner, Supervisor Clayton indicated the town's outside counsel addressed this at the prior meeting. Mr. Macy said the notice of a hearing under Chapter 91 to declare a premises a public nuisance must be in writing and served not less than 10 days prior to the hearing. Also, Mr. Macy refers to the second predicate notice saying it is dated August 22nd and it's provided, it sets forth the date and the time of the hearing that we are conducting today. What Mr. Macy does not say is the notice was provided 10 days prior to the August 31st meeting because it was provided only 9 days in violation of the law. When asked whether the town uploaded the exhibits to its website prior to the meeting in accordance with 103E, Clayton refused to answer the question. On September 8th, one of the town's outside lawyers testified in court that Section 103E only requires the town to provide supporting records for resolutions when a discussion is planned. Although this is incorrect, it is clear that the town board did intend to discuss the Capri Motel issue, but still did not provide the required records according to the town's own interpretation of Section 103E. It also appears that the town attorney, John Macarone, is also unfamiliar with Section 103E, telling the lawyer for the Capri Motel, Mr. Macy, as a courtesy, gave you a copy of those exhibits. Let's be clear, the town is required by law to provide reference records of resolutions on its website 24 hours prior to the meeting in which they are subject to discussions and upon request at town board meetings. Mr. Macarone also incorrectly says, I don't believe anyone has predetermined anything. But the signs posted on August 7th state, premises has been declared a public nuisance. This is a predetermination because the public nuisance hearing wasn't even noticed yet and was held 3 weeks later. Finally, the notice for the first predicate arrest did not include a copy of the town's Chapter 91 law, and the so-called second predicate arrest did not even occur at the Capri Motel. It occurred across the street. So the facts show that the August 31st hearing was not warranted to declare the Capri Motel a public nuisance. Hopefully in the near future, the town officials will study the laws required to properly do their job. Thank you.
Mr. Cutter, thank you. Okay, next I have Leo Stina.
Leo Stimler, 67 Huntington Road, a resident there since 1979. I'd like to speak about the Sands Casino and my concerns. I'm concerned about the roads, what's going to happen to our roads, what's going to happen to traffic, what's going to happen to air quality, what's going to happen to the drugs that this casino brings in, what about escort services? But most important, I'm concerned about our water. Not just the quality, but the quantity of water. Recently, on September the 11th, the New York Times said that there's a very bad crisis occurring with our underground water supply. It said America is draining its groundwater like there's no tomorrow. And the article of September 11th, just about 3 weeks ago, it specifically mentioned corn yields in Kansas and drinking water running short of Long Island. So I would ask you, when you have your hearing, to make sure about what's going on with our groundwater. Not just the quality, but the quantity. Adding 23,000 people coming in every day, how does that impact? The other thing I wanted to mention is, I know there's going to be tremendous pressure on you. I see that Fox News said that if this casino goes through, it means $100 million to Nassau County, town of Hempstead, and surrounding communities. That's tremendous pressure on you. So I pray, I hope that you will be strong in your hearings and investigate. I hope the hearings, your hearings, will not be like the Nassau County hearings that were back in May for the lease. And I'd like to give you just one quick example of the terrible things that went on there. David Patterson, who, as you know, is the former governor, he is also a consultant vice president for the Sands Casino. He never mentioned that. And what's worse, Nassau County never, the legislators never said to Governor Patterson, you know, do you have any vested interest? He's a vice president. He's not speaking as a former governor, but that's what he said he was. That's who he said he was, and that's how Nassau County addressed him. He's the vice president. He's getting paid. So that's true. So I hope when you have your hearing, I hope you will address and make sure that anyone who comes to the podium to speak about the Sands Casino, they identify at the time their vested interest. Thanks very much.
Pearl Jacobs, Uniondale. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has identified Uniondale as one of 5 Nassau County communities that have been adversely affected by air pollution. DEC's year-long study clearly identified high traffic on Hempstead Turnpike and Uniondale's proximity to Hempstead Turnpike, Meadowbrook Parkway, and Northern Parkway as the primary source of Uniondale's poor air quality. A casino project at the Nassau Coliseum site would increase traffic significantly, adding approximately 30,000 more vehicles to the current 100,000 to 170,000 daily average, resulting in further deterioration of Uniondale's air quality. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has identified Uniondale as a community that is of high concern for the health of children and the elderly, who are most susceptible to respiratory illnesses, primary illness being asthma. Now here I have the Nassau County Health Indicators by race and ethnicity for the 2018-2020 data. It says asthma hospitalizations per 10,000 population for our white residents is 3.9%. For our black and people of color, it's 16.5%. That's asthma hospitalizations. Asthma hospitalizations for 10,000 population aged for our youth, 0 to 17, 5.5% for our white residents, and 23.3% for our black and residents and people of color. As stated on the September 13th NYC DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation meeting, Community Air Monitoring Call, a call where Ms. Gooseby, you attended. The next step for the New York State DEC is to implement emission reduction strategies with the goal of designing programs and projects to reduce emission and exposure in communities that have been adversely affected by air pollution. Also stated on the call was that local government and the state Department of Transportation collaboration is needed in order to reduce high traffic concentration in affected communities. My question to the town is, how will the town of Hempstead work with the state agencies to achieve the goal of improving Uniondale's air quality? And we are definitely opposed to the rezoning at the Coliseum. And I must say that disparities are rooted in systematic inequalities that, if left ungoverned, morphs into environmental injustice. Say no to the casino.
Thank you, Ms. Carol Jacobs. I happen not to be a tenant. I am the person who's in charge of that whole thing. Okay, next is Mr.
Well, Ms. Gooseby, if you're in charge of it, you didn't mention anything on the call. Thank you very much. You didn't have any input on that call. As an elected representative, you should have had
Mr. Jacobs, you've been here before the 3 minutes is up.
I'm not talking to you.
Good.
I'm talking to my supposed council person.
Ms. Jacobs, your 3 minutes is up.
I'm not talking to you.
Have a good day.
I'm not talking to you.
That's yours.
Good afternoon, Chris Jacobs, Uniondale, New York. With regard to the proposed casino project, Uniondale in particular, as mentioned before, is plagued by daily gridlock, which contributes to adverse air pollution. I see it every day. I commute every day over there. It's gridlock from 4:30 in the afternoon to 8:30 at night, and vice versa in the morning. There's no alternative roads in Hempstead Turnpike. You know, it's just over there by itself. The the alternate parallel roads to that is very far away. So with regards to the Sands Casinos project, I don't understand how adding 30,000 vehicles to a given location and traveling over there will improve our air quality and traffic situation. Also, I want to touch on, I just received an email last Friday with the Around the Town email from Supervisor Clayton, and it was very nice that I mentioned 2 meetings ago about LED signs should be posted, and LED signs should be erected at every major school crossing, such as the elementary schools in particular. I saw that they installed 2 new ones in the Valley Stream School District, which is very nice. I'm appreciative of that. But I want to mention that in reference to California Avenue, Northern Parkway School in Uniondale, and many other schools throughout the town of Hempstead, that every day, there's a problem with speeding throughout residential communities, a lot of elementary schools and others, middle schools and high schools, but most of the elementary schools I'm talking about, they're located off of main roads and also off of residential roads that people speed through all the time. I know everybody here witnesses that. So I really would like to be, I'm curious on my initiative that I'm trying to hopefully the town will do is that every school crossing should have LED signs. It doesn't matter where it's at, street. They always talk about strategic location, but I believe every single school is a strategic location due to the fact that as I'll see this afternoon when I'm driving around, I'll see the little kids coming out. Certain schools, I don't understand why certain schools have some, certain ones don't. I believe that they should be out there everywhere. So just a quick point for you guys. Do you have any idea when they should be at every school? I mean, is an initiative going on? I know they have the Back to School Safety Initiative, so I'm trying to figure out, well, is the intent of the town of Hempstead to have it at every school crossing for every school in the town of Hempstead?
Questions?
Okay. So you can take that advisement as Don Clayton loves to say. So basically, my thing is hopefully in the near future, all the schools have, in particular California Avenue, Northern Parkway School, because that's near hospital. People speed down California Avenue, and then every school should have them in. That's all I have to say about that. Have a great day.
Okay, Mr. John McPhee? John McPhee.
Good afternoon, John McFeely, 46 Chestnut Street, Garden City. Supervisor Clayton several times today mentioned the benefit of constituents raising interesting issues and opening discussion about them. On July 29th, I sent each of you an email in that spirit. The email concerned the issue of approval or non-approval of the Sands Casino project. You've heard this afternoon from other speakers what the issues of concern are. There's no need for me to get into that again. Traffic, crime, drugs, water. But since I hadn't heard from any of you since I wrote that email, not even a form letter, I decided that today I could come and open a discussion with you about those issues. So here I am, I'm about to open a discussion, and 3 to 4 of you aren't even here. So I would ask, please tell your fellow members what I have to say and why I was disappointed in not hearing from them or from you. If it would help matters, I have copies of that letter with me. I'd be happy to hand them out to you. Thank you.
It's a done deal, that's why.
Good morning, Town Council members. I am also disappointed to see that my fellow residents, Don Clavin and Muscarella, have left the dais.
I took a restroom break as well, but I'm back. They seem to be gone for quite a long time now, and I think it's because they don't want to hear what I have to say, sadly. I'm here with some members of our group, Say No to the Casino. Mr. Clavin may say that this discussion is premature and, we're going to have hearings and meetings. That's great. We want to know what Mr. Clavin's position is, what the town board's position is. It's a zoning matter, yes, but it's within your hands to block this casino, and I'd like to go over some of the reasons why. The location is all wrong. This is a suburb. You want to protect our suburbs? Las Vegas Sands has applied for a colossal casino with a gambling floor that is larger than 7 football fields. Second largest casino in the United States, right in the middle of a residential area. It's the wrong place for it. Besides Hofstra University and Nassau Community College, there are preschools, primary schools, secondary schools, including Kellenberg. Also, Hebrew Academy of Nassau County is close by. The total number of students close within a 6-mile radius of the proposed casino is 60,000 students. And I want to ask the Town of Hempstead council members, would you want your child at that college or at that high school or at one of your grandchild maybe at one of those daycare centers so close to the casino? I don't think so. I'm going to skip over crime, that's been covered and will be covered in detail. Cost to taxpayers. How are we going to keep a lid on taxes when we are inviting in a net tax loser to this county? I don't care that the tax projections are $150 million a year or whatever the phony baloney number is. The Sands has already applied to the IDA for a tax break. So whatever taxes they're promising, cut it by a lot. In addition to that, there will be municipal costs all over Nassau County. We will need more police all over Nassau County because we all know that casinos bring crime. They bring new gambling addicts, and desperate people do desperate things. We will need more police, more fire department response, more EMS, tax dollars, increased taxes to pay for these services. We have volunteer firefighters. We have a crisis in our county.
The next person up is...
We're kind of tired of this 3-minute limit. We ran into this in Nassau County.
Okay. Diane Madden?
Diane Madden?
Oh, Diane? Okay. Yeah, she's finished. 3 minutes, please.
Okay, I want to say one more thing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Your time is up.
Is this your role here on the town council?
Yes, this is my role right here now. Your time is up.
We were disrespected in this way.
Yes, I'm sorry, but we have to follow the 3-minute rule. Everybody has to follow it. That's all.
Good luck getting volunteer firefighters to come put things out.
Thank you, Ms. Have a good day.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. I wanted to review, there was a resolution that passed on, August 1st. That resolution has left the animals very unprotected. It was a resolution that basically puts a price tag on what they consider to be long-term unadoptable animals that, by the way, become unadoptable when they don't have the resources they need. That resolution has allowed for the unlimited amount of dogs and cats to be transferred to an unlimited, uninspected facilities for unlimited tax dollars. Now, I was really happy to hear that Supervisor Clavin was interested in guidelines. I handed those guidelines in. I've not heard anything back. I think it's imperative, and I encourage all of you to make sure those safety guidelines are put in place, not only today and moving forward, but because of situations and events that have left animals in very dangerous conditions and places that have been shut down for cruelty. I also, as per the supervisor, provided lost and found policies and procedures and suggested, that was back in April, to prevent when Spirit, the cat that was destroyed recently, was killed. And I did that to prevent another situation which happened with Toast. So again, I'm going to remind this board and encourage this administration to work with these wonderful people, try to get some policies and procedures changed, some enforced. You need 2 full-time on-site veterinarians. I saw recently the Nassau County Police Department put an advertisement for jobs, and their motto was to be part of the change. So when Hempstead says they're searching for veterinarians, no one knows it. They have a 34,000 follower page. It's very easy to post that you're searching for veterinarians, and would come at least a 75% savings versus the amount of money that's being spent on contracted vets. I also suggested that after meeting with some of the volunteers at the shelter, they're hoping that some pre-COVID dog walking hours are returned. I was under the impression the supervisor was reviewing that. That was probably about 6 weeks ago. I think it's important. There's approximately 90 dogs right now. You've had an influx of homeless dogs lately, to the point where they have to sometimes house them in cat cages. So I think it's important, at the very least, while hopefully you're looking into professionals to bring in, to allow these animals to get socialized.
Okay, thank you. Next is Kay Riley.
Hi, my name is Karen Reardon, and I'm a resident of Nassau County. This is my first time speaking with you, as I'm here today to express my opposition to the rezoning of the hub for the Las Vegas Sands Casino. For almost a decade now, I have worked as a lead with Moms Demand Action, dedicating my life's work to reducing crime in my community, seemingly before it became politically fashionable. I was excited to see in the last election that Long Island was getting tough on crime, and hopeful that we would be a national leader in reducing crime and gun violence. Instead, our elected officials who are sworn to protect us are about to greenlight a casino, which is known to increase many types of crime. According to the FBI crime statistics, in counties with casinos, 9% of the total crime is due to gambling. If a casino is built, we can expect an increase in human trafficking, drug trafficking, personal assaults, gang activity, property theft, burglary, drunk driving. All of these things will increase in Nassau County. In other words, you can't be tough on crime and be pro-casino. This is why Las Vegas Sands plans to fund a police station on the premise and to contribute up to $1.8 million for policing, because they know crime will increase if a casino is built. Given this knowledge, why would you put your constituents at risk? Crime is a byproduct of a gambling addiction, which, as Newsday has reported, is already at an all-time high on Long Island. Why then pour gasoline on a fire with building the world's second largest casino here? Did you know that the American Psychiatric Association has listed gambling disorders in the same addiction category as heroin and opioid addictions? Yeah, we are in for a world of hurt. Please, don't unleash this harm to the 30,000 students adjacent to the hub and to our communities who are just getting settled after pandemic setbacks. Sadly, if a casino is approved, this will be your legacy. Is this really what you want for your community, your family, and for yourselves? You won't be able to say, I wish I had known. And there's no such thing as going back. Las Vegas Sands doesn't have any other casinos in the United States. All others are in Asia. They often buy a place, they stay for a certain amount of time until they can turn a profit, and then they sell. They will be out of here. They are not going to be long-term neighbors, and the residents of Nassau County deserve better. And the voters of Nassau won't forget who sold their futures. I urge you to say no to the casino. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Leslie Simmons, 115 Lindbergh Avenue, Point Lookout. I spoke at the last meeting about serious change about the animal shelter. My cat Spirit was one of the cats that was unnecessarily euthanized. He was picked up by town of Hempstead, just a few feet from my property, taken to Central Vet, deemed in poor condition even though all of his vitals were fine. The $1,500 worth of tests they ran all came back normal except for the leg, which he had broken a year before. I spent $4,000 to have that leg healed. They deemed it healed but not well. It was healed very well. Anyway, I spoke at the last meeting, so did Scott and Joan Craig, whose cat Toast was also picked up by town of Hempstead, just a distance, short distance from their house, and taken first to the Wantagh vet, who said he was a little dehydrated, taken back to the shelter, hydrated. But they somehow took him to Central Vet, same vet that euthanized my cat. That vet, well, for one thing, whatever happened in the van, that cat was brought in with its leg damaged and with his temperature extremely low, which it wasn't at the Wantagh vet. The Central Vet, again, made the decision to euthanize that cat. Yet another pet, only shortly after my cat was euthanized. We poured out our hearts here at the last meeting. We had about 30 people also here in support. We were really disappointed after all of that. My daughter followed up with emails. We heard nothing back from anyone. We got no apologies, no sorry, no nothing. Then, the night of the meeting, my daughter and Scott Craig were interviewed by Channel 12. The station aired it that night, ran the story about our concerns about what had happened, and it was very disappointing and insulting to see the response from the town of Hempstead. Basically, the response from the spokesperson was that it's within the realm of I don't know what the exact words were, but basically indicating that ill animals sometimes have to be put to sleep in favor and in support and in the most humane ways. Our cats, neither Toast nor Spirit, were ill animals. We gave you the medical reports, which said these animals had normal vitals. But suddenly the town of Hempstead said our cats were ill and in their own best interest needed to be put down. That couldn't have been farther from the case. So one, I would like an apology, because no one obviously listened to the words we said at the last meeting. Nobody listened, because that spokesperson never should have put out that response. I will also leave my email, because I would like someone to get in touch with me, and I would like you to talk to all of our families that have been affected.
Talk in the microphone.
Hi, Tate Simmons, 115 Lindbergh Avenue. Okay, so I have a whole speech prepared for today. I am brought to emotion right now because I'm looking at an empty board. I took off work, I'm losing money to be here, and Don Craven can't even sit and listen to me. My mom just spoke about that. Don's not here. I sent a heartfelt email giving you guys an opportunity to apologize and work with us. I'm trying to be understanding, I'm trying to be collected in this, but it is beyond frustrating looking at that chair empty right now. So I'm going to eat some of my time with that. I have not heard a single response from anyone on this board. So as a decent human being, having some sort of empathy for this situation with my cat, the Craig's cat, with all the animals that have died under, a bizarre situation, which I'm here kind of wondering if the town of Hempstead is purposely working with Central Vet to have these older pets euthanized. Let's be honest, older animals aren't adoptable, and it's a bit odd that no one is responding. There's not one sense of genuine response to this. So I'm going to eat up all my time and ask you questions. Chris Carini, I appreciate you saying you were concerned last time. I was very frustrated when I got up here and I had no response, and none of the advocates here had a response as well. So I'm here today to ask you, what has been done? I heard that after I spoke at the last town meeting 2 weeks ago, that a private letter was sent within the animal shelter saying to stop animals from being sent to Central Vet. That's great. What does that mean? Was the contract severed? Can we expect for it to be severed? Is it under investigation? Can you provide me with a little bit of insight on this?
Well, first let me say, so, and I think I speak for all the town board members, even only being the town attorney, that we are deeply sorry for your loss. And if that wasn't expressed properly to you through the social media and the statement put out, I can say for sure that the supervisor has taken the issues very, very seriously. I will say that we've taken your concerns, and it's our intention to look into the issues you raised. And I will tell you that with regard to Central Vet, the town has suspended all operations with them, okay? And we're in the process of looking into obtaining services through possibly an RFP in the future for the things that they've done for the town in the past. So you can rest assured that no animals are being sent to Central Vet at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And I appreciate the communication. It would have been easier if that was over email, but I appreciate you coming forward about that today. There's also a huge problem with just the lost and found protocol in general, and suspending the vet from Central Vet is great, and I'm very happy to hear that. But with a $5.5 million shelter, which taxpayers are paying for, I'm just curious, we've talked about bringing on site vets. The animals still need vet care that are there. Just because Central Vet is gone is one problem, and I'm happy it's being addressed. But now looking at the protocol and the in-house vets, that also has to be addressed. Again, I've taken off work for this subject. I will keep pushing for this. If I could have someone, just somebody on this board talk to me, just one person, 5 minutes of your time. I don't want to feel like I'm talking robots here. I used to love town of Hempstead. I'm sitting here right now looking at all the amazing people around me and the lack of empathy coming from the board. And you addressing me is very, I'm honestly really happy about that, but I need to talk to somebody, and I want to help make sure that these changes are going in place with Diane Madden, who's amazing and knows the protocols like the back of her hand. So if someone on the board could please reach out to me, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
My name is Darlene Howe. I live at 205 Blackheath in Lido Beach. I'm the president of the Lido Home Civic Association, and I'm speaking on behalf of our Civic Association. Personally, in our Civic, support clean energy, we support onshore wind, solar, nuclear, but our Civic unanimously is against an offshore wind turbine cable running through residential neighborhoods. That is what is proposed to happen with the Empire Wind offshore cable project right south of Lido Beach. No one in the town of Hempstead has officially come out against Empire Wind 2, and we have reached out to you by email several times. We had a representative from town of Hempstead come to our meeting, and they said that they were collecting information. That was several months ago. And the town of Hempstead is in receipt of intervenor funds, that's money, from the proposal, the sponsors of the proposal, to look into the situation and determine if they are for or against it. The time is now for the town of Hempstead to oppose offshore wind. The process is now in what's called an Article 7, and it's being determined by the Public Service Commission if it will be approved. Long Beach, the cable from the project was proposed to make landfall in Long Beach, the city of Long Beach. Long Beach said no. So now it's coming to Lido unless the town of Hempstead says no. We need you to say no. Originally, Lido was an alternative site. With Long Beach saying no, we are the site. What we do know right now is that Equinor is a foreign corporation. Our energy rates will go up. It is a fact that they even say that. What we need to worry about, the EMF cables from the wind project, they will go right in front of residential homes. They go through Lido, Island Park, and actually go slightly through Long Beach. It is detrimental to sea life and will impact fishermen, whales. It is inconclusive what is happening to the health of residents from these EMF cables. It can cause cancer. No money is worth the health of the residents. What is the alternative? Go through Jones Beach. There is now something called Juno Express. It is a cable that is laid down in Jones Beach and is not being used. It can go through there. It goes right up the Wantaw and will not hit a residential area. Please, silence implies consent. We need Town of Hempstead to answer a question. Do they support the cable going through residential neighborhoods in the Town of Hempstead?
Ma'am, I just want to address certain things. I will tell you that the supervisor and all the members of the town board have expressed their concern with regard to this. You are correct, we applied for and obtained the intervenor funds. Not only has my office, and I have been actively monitoring this situation, and you mentioned the process, and the process isn't complete, and there will be settlement conferences in the future that the town will be actively engaged in. They haven't occurred yet. We've also retained outside counsel at significant expense. Okay, so the supervisor and the town board are absolutely concerned about this process. We're going to continue to monitor it, and we're going to make sure that the town of Hempstead is protected and its residents protected.
Concern is not opposition, though. We need a formal statement that opposes a cable going through residential.
Your time is up, please.
Thank you.
Patricia Chester.
Before my time starts here, I came and sat waiting to speak with Don Clayton. I'd like my time.
I'm sorry he's not here. He had something very important that he had to do. Sometimes you have to walk away and take care of those things too.
Echo Park.
That's on Miss Gorella. Those are the two I came to ask a question about, and they get up and walk out.
They had to leave. I'm sure that sometime in your life.
So when can I speak with them in a public forum prior to the election?
If you want to stay there and speak, you stay there, but he's not here. And as I told you, he had
Well,
something
don't you
to
think
speak
an
to.
announcement should be made, wasting people's time, sitting, waiting to talk to an empty board? It's disgraceful, and it's going to be mentioned on social media.
Catherine Quinn is the next person.
She had to go home. We're all taking off from work.
Okay.
More evening meetings.
Greg Nana. Greg?
Good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm also disappointed that we don't have a full board to supervise because I was here in March and I brought and made a presentation how poor and unsafe roads were in Lido Beach on the north side. And I met with the commissioners of highway and engineers, and they put in a plan and they got it done. And I wanted to say thank you personally that's done, because it was very unsafe. But moving forward, right now, we're looking for the answer on the offshore cable coming in. Chris, can you give us an answer? Are you for it or against it?
The issue is it's got to come before this board first. So we have to actually have a public hearing if anything does come before, so I can't give you an answer beforehand. But we are listening to concerns. We heard what happened in Long Beach, and we will listen. There's no application, I correct, Mr. Town Attorney, on anything coming to our property at this time, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, Chris, in the next week, can you give me a date today, later, that you could come to a meeting with our residents in the evening of this week or next, this coming week?
You have to email my office for my availability.
So who should I speak to? We try to get this together because as we speak, it's moving forward, okay? And this is going to be a love canal, okay? Because that cable is going to give off toxic materials, toxic sense, because telecommunication companies run their wires. Those are low voltage cables, and they come into a vault. Those vaults, they give off carbon monoxide, methane gas. That comes from low voltage. What is this cable going to do? And our water table is right there. We have aquifers. It's going to be in concrete, but this comes through the concrete, okay? We'd like to get a meeting with you, Chris. Chris, we'd like to get a meeting. I know you could go on can you go on your phone right now and chat upstairs and get back to me with a meeting now?
Excuse me, sir. He asked you to send something to his office. He does have an office, so if you need something from him, because we're not to even talk to you, not supposed to, talk to you.
Who's the person in the office to speak to? What's the person?
Email my office, they'll respond to you. This is public comments, so please speak.
They don't want to talk to you.
We can't at this time. We're not supposed to. This is public comment.
Yeah, what rule says that?
I'm asking a simple question, an easy question. Who do we speak to? Who's the point person in the office? That's all I'm asking. Who should I contact?
Top secret.
You need to email this office.
I can't.
We've done that before. It's been ineffective.
I said that Councilman has indicated to contact this office by email, and he'll get back to you.
I just want to say that the supervisor, there's nothing guaranteed, there's nothing for sure. There's only one thing that's for sure, that we all pass away.
Sir,
But I'm
your time is up now.
I'm
Sorry.
going to walk me off. But I want to say, I've worked for many people, I know many elections, okay? And this is an election time coming up. Everybody works well in getting out to their people, okay? This is the Jack Martins who lost by 300 votes.
Sir, your time has expired. Please sit. Thank you. Respect the next speaker, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
respect all speakers.
Mr. Christopher McNally?
That is correct, Phil.
Christopher?
Thank you very much.
Is he here?
Oh, I need my book.
Okay, no one else? That's it.
It is what it is.